Okay, hi everybody. As promised, I mentioned earlier I would like to make sure that I keep you guys up to par in terms of the tutorials that you have to do. So I actually would have wanted to teach you this during the last Wednesday's tutorial, which sadly had to be cancelled. Nonetheless, I would hope that you guys are able to watch this video and follow through it, because in this coming, well, actually there's no class this Wednesday as well. So the next time I see you guys for this tutorial, for an After Effects tutorial, might most probably be next week. So this is first of, I think, 2 tutorials I'll be sending to you. So it's about After Effects. Okay, so these are this is a pretty basic intro, which I think is good enough for you to just play around with, and would keep you busy for quite a few hours to get yourself familiar with the software. Okay, now this I think should apply to any version of After Effects. What I'm using currently right now is CS6, so I think that most of the function, even with CC, should be quite the same. Okay, so when you open After Effects, you get an interface something like this. Alright, if you do not see exactly the same, that's okay. But most importantly, what you need to have is this project area. This is what I will usually refer to as the timeline, this area here, and this is the composition. This is where most of the animation work goes on, whatever the visual is. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a brief overview of what this software should be like. Well, basically you need to have these 3 panels, and on top here you have the toolbar, which you currently see now is disabled because there is no composition whatsoever. So now to start a new composition, which is, if you look at After Effects, try and imagine it like Illustrator or Photoshop. They work in layers and they work in compositions. Okay, compositions, kind of imagine compositions as a file by itself, or a scene by itself. Okay, okay, so you have now new composition. Alright, now to make new composition, you must make sure that your width is 1920. Okay, go to the next one, 1080. Now the output for your file should always be this ratio. Okay, it's a ratio of 16:9. Right, frame rate, well, you can put it at 25. That's a good amount. And the duration of this composition, okay, so let's just say I want to play around with just 10 seconds of animation. It would be something like this. Okay, so the first 2 numbers at the back, those are frames. Okay, the next 2 numbers are seconds, and next are minutes, and the final one is hours. Okay, so let's try and break this down a little bit. So you have just now the, oops, sorry, you start with the first 2 is frames. Okay, followed by the next 2 is your seconds. Okay, the next, oops, is minutes. Okay, and then hours. Okay, usually I think most animations should not last more than 10 hours, so that's why they only give you 10. So it's kind of like hours, minutes, seconds, and the last one just now was frames. Okay, so sort of like that, I think. Okay, yeah. Alright, so frames, seconds, minutes, hours. So that's how this is read. So now if I put 10, meaning it's a 10, this whole composition is going to be 10 seconds. Okay, and then frames. Now we all know that there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. Okay, if you do not know that, I think we need to start worrying. But okay, now frames. How many frames is there in 1 second? It's very simple. It depends on how many frames you put here. See, if I put 25 frames per second, that would mean that in 1 second there would be 25 frames. Okay, so if I were to put something like 50 frames here, automatically you get 12 seconds because 12 seconds because 2 50s are 2 25s is 50, so that equals to 2 seconds, so therefore the 2 seconds added here, but I want just 10 frames, 10 seconds. Okay, I hope you guys understand how these frames work. Okay, if you've done animation, principles of animation, you should know what frame rate is, so I should not need to spend any more time explaining that to you. Now, okay, so you've got this composition. Well, sometimes it's good to rename. How do you rename a composition that's here now in your project area? Is you press enter and you can name, let's say, scene 01. Alright, and if you look at the toolbar on top, you will notice some very similar tools, right, compared to that of Illustrator. So you've got your shape tool, which if you click, you've got all these different shapes that you can create. The pen tool, and you can also have the type tool. Now I just show you how to use the shape tool. It's pretty much the same like Illustrator. Now, how do you zoom out and zoom in? This composition area is where your screen is going to be, okay, or where your animation happens. If you look at your keyboard right now, you will see the comma button and the full stop button. They have basically this keyboard, okay, on your keyboard. These keys on your keyboard. Basically, if you press those, you can zoom out and zoom in this composition. Okay, all right. So, sorry. Now, I want to create a square shape in this scene, so I'm just going to create a square. Hold down my shift key so that I get a perfect square. Okay, and with this square, I'm going to teach you the five basic tools. Okay, in oops, effects. Okay, the 5 basic tools of After Effects. Okay, now where are these 5 basic tools? It's very easy. Okay, now when you create a shape, you have shape layer 1. Okay, I use this, I created the square shape layer 1. Now, what are these 5 basic tools? If you go to this small arrow key here, you click on it, you will find contents and transform. Under transform, if you click it again, you will get what I meant by the 5 basic tools: the anchor point, the position, the scale, rotation, and opacity. Okay, so now anchor point. What is anchor point? A is anchor point. Alright, the shortcut key for anchor point is A. Now say instance you want just the anchor point control to come out, press A, so only anchor point will come out. You do not need to do this and then drop this down and then have anchor point. Okay, you just press A and all you see is anchor point. You get anchor point isolated. Okay, so what is an anchor point is this. This is your anchor point. Right now, the anchor point seems to be outside the shape. Okay, so you would like to actually, for example, I think I start with something like rotation. Okay, rotation is an easier concept to understand. You know what? Hold on a second. Very sorry, my pet is kind of making a bit of noise, so I'll just pause the video for a while. Pause. Okay, sorry for the slight interruption just now. Okay, yeah, so let's start with rotation. I think it's easier now. When I rotate this object, okay, obviously you guys know what rotation is, right? It turns different angles. So if let's say I rotate the object like this, you see, or how do I manipulate this number here is if I click on with my mouse, all right, and I drag it to the right or to the left, okay, right and left, right and left. Now you notice that the way the object is moving, it's as if it is pivoted on this object. It's as if there's a string attached to this center here to this object and it's moving around. So if it were to be a clock, it would go like tick 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 like that. So right now the anchor point is outside the object, hence the rotation is like this, right? So if I want the anchor point to change to go into this object here, I press Y, the key Y, okay, Y for yellow. I will move this anchor point into the center of the object, and now you see when and if I want to deactivate this Y key, I press V, it will go back to the arrow button, see? So when I click on rotate, notice that the rotation now is different. It's not outside, it's inside, right? So the object is anchored to this, okay? Now how do I animate something like this? Like for example the rotation, if you want it to go like one circle, like go round like this, right? Right now by moving it, you aren't actually creating any animation, just manipulating the degree of the object, okay? If you want it to animate, it has to be against time, which is here. Remember we made the composition 10 seconds long, okay? So you've got this is what I will call the playback head, okay? So how do I start animating? First, you need to click on this stopwatch here, okay? This is a tiny icon called the stopwatch. You click it once and you will notice this diamond shaped object appear on your timeline. When you see this diamond shaped object appear on the timeline, anytime you move your playback head and change the numbers here, let me just show you. See, I changed the number here. Another diamond shape will appear. That's called a keyframe. So now you have two keyframes. When you have two keyframes, you will have animation happening. You click your stopwatch only once to activate the animation. You do not need to click it again, because once you click it again, let me show you what happens. Basically all of your keyframes will disappear. So don't ever do that. If you animate on object, don't go and click it once and then click it again, because that will destroy or kind of remove all the keyframes that you've worked on, okay? So let's go back to 0. Like you can even type in the exact number you want. Let's say 45 degrees, it will be at 45 degrees, okay? Now again, keyframe, let's say at 3 seconds I want it to go let's say like that, okay, 270 degrees, okay? So it will move from here to here like that. So you've got animation going on already, okay? Now what is this number in front of the degree that you see? You see 0 times plus 45 degrees. If I were to put, let's say 2, I think the easiest way to do it is to start with 0 and start with 0. So basically it's now 0 0 here at 3 seconds, and at 0 seconds it's also 0 0. Now if say at 3 seconds I type in 2 in the front, what does that mean? It just means that it will go 1 circle, 2 circle. See, look at the numbers, yeah? So just to explain it to you, the number in front, okay, sorry, 0 times 45, let's say degrees. I don't have the shortcut key for degrees, but okay, basically this number tells you how many cycles or rotations. So if I were to put 3, it would basically mean to tell the object to move 3 times, circle 3 times, and 45 degrees. Okay, so that's what it means. Yeah, I hope you guys can understand it. Alright, so if I put 2 at this keyframe here, I put 2 in front, it means to tell this object to go around 2 times. If you want 2 times and then 45 degrees, you just type in 45 degrees, it will go that extra 45 degrees. See? Okay, so when you animate, how do you preview a animation that you've done? You go to preview. How do you get this? If you do not see it, go to window, go to preview. Okay, click on the RAM preview button and you can see the animation that you have just done. Okay, now scale, I think it's very easy. Scale basically is, let's just say you want the object to start at this size, and say at 1.5 seconds, sorry, you want to increase it by 120 or 144%. Okay, and then when at 3 seconds you want it to go down to say 80% of the original size. So what you get is something like this. It goes big and then it goes small again. Okay, alright, so you've got scale now. Okay, and then the next thing is position. Now position, let's play around with a little bit with position. You click on the stopwatch again. Let's say I want to make this object go from here to here. So at 3 seconds, say for instance, of course you can play around with how many seconds you want. You can even do it at 2 seconds. This object will travel. If I hold down the shift key, I can pull it out in a straight line. If not, it will be kind of a bit loose. If I hold down the shift key, I can make it move in a straight line. Pull it here, and you will notice that it will move. Okay, yeah, but only until the 2 seconds, but the rotation still continues, you see, because it stops at 3 seconds, right? Okay, so you've got a lot of animation going on right now already. Anchor point, I think I've shown you what that is. You can even keyframe that. The other thing is opacity. Yeah, opacity has to do with see how transparent it is. 0%, of course, so you cannot see anything. If you increase it to say 55%, that's what you see. Yeah, it's a bit dark because the background is black. If you increase to 100%, it's in the pure color, the full color. Okay, yeah. Now what are the shortcut keys to bring these things out individually? For example, just now anchor point was A, position would be very easily P, scale would be S, rotation would be R. But for opacity, now it's not O, it is actually T. T for transparency. Okay, so do not press O for your opacity, you have to press T. Now that's the only tricky one. Okay, I think the next, so you've covered the 5 basic animation tools. The next thing I want to show you is parenting. Okay, parenting, now what's that about? Okay, say for instance you have another shape. Okay, you have another shape and you want that shape to follow wherever this shape, whatever this shape is doing. Okay, say for instance if I created a star, okay, and I want to increase, remember in Illustrator, to increase the amount of points you press your arrow key. So I've got a star now. Okay, and I want to change the color of the star, say to a blue star. Okay, and it's, the anchor point is good, it's right here. Now if I want this star to do whatever or follow whatever this square shape is doing, I can parent this object to this object. Okay, so in essence this becomes the child, this becomes the parent. So how do I do that? You see this tab here, parent. You take either the whiplash here, okay, and draw it to this shape layer 1, which is the square, or you can select it from here, the drop down menu, shape layer 1. To make things easy, you can also rename your layers. This you can rename as blue star, and the other one you can rename as orange square. Okay, so now I'm going to parent the blue star to the orange square. Okay, so now you have a look at the blue star. I've not done any keyframe animation to the blue star yet, but look at it now as I play RAM preview. Okay, so whatever the square is doing, the star seems to be doing as well, or following, yeah, because it's the parent. Okay, but that does not mean that the star cannot do anything by itself. It can still do certain things by itself. Yeah, it seems that the anchor point is now kind of outside. I want to rechange it again. I'm going to press Y, move it into the star, and then press V to deselect. Now say as the star is following the square, I want the star to also increase in size. So I'm going to click on the stopwatch for scale, and so when this increases size, I want, say, the star to shrink down, small, and then shrink it up again. Okay, shrink it up, increase it up again. So what you get is like that. So the star can also still animate by itself. So for example, if I were to give you an example of an animation you might want to do, for example, orange square instead was the earth, and this blue star is the moon. So when you want to, say, animate the earth rotating around with the moon following it, you can do this. Yeah, you can parent it. Okay, or if you have, for example, a car that you're animating traveling on the road, and there's something on top of the car, say a boat attached to the car, you can parent the boat onto the car and animate the boat probably bumping up and down the car, but it will still follow the car wherever it goes. Okay, so you've got those 5 basic tools that you've already learned, and this parenting tool. Parenting tool is very important because the next time when you learn character animation, you're going to join different body parts together, and one part of the body is going to be the parent. So it's important that you learn this now. Okay, okay, the next thing, blending modes and transparencies. Now what are these about? Okay, I think it's important to know what blending modes and transparencies, because it is something that you will also learn in Photoshop and Illustrator. Okay, but I think instead of teaching you about blending modes and transparencies in After Effects, okay, I will show it to you in I think I will choose Photoshop. Okay, I know that some of you have not used Photoshop before, but basically it is still this the concept are the same. Sorry, this is a project I'm working on right now. Let me show you, okay, what blending modes and transparencies about. Now you will find this term blending modes and transparencies in 3 different softwares: Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, and also in After Effects. Okay, now what is this about? Now the best software to teach you on the understanding of blending modes and transparencies is in Photoshop. I will tell you why. Okay, because these are terminologies that all started in Photoshop. It was borrowed then into Illustrator and After Effects. Okay, now in Photoshop, where can you find blending modes and transparencies is here in your layers. Okay, you'll find all of this. These are all blending modes and transparencies. Okay, now let me explain how these modes came to be. I don't know if you guys know how all photos are processed last time. Basically, when I was still in college, we would have you know, when you take photos, not like digital cameras nowadays, where you do not require film. we used to have film, right? Negatives. You know what negatives are, right? It's basically something like this, and yeah, I tell you what, I'll show you I'll Google a picture of a film negative. Okay, and there. Okay, so these are film negatives. Okay, these are all film negatives, and this is what photos used to be like before the digital camera. Okay, and we would cut like one piece out, one piece of this film out. For example, like this one, we'll cut one piece out and we'll put it into a machine that looks like a projector. So let me look for a picture of that as well. Negative developer. So I don't seem to be able to find it here. But basically there would be a machine or sort of a tool that has a platform like this. Okay, draw it for you. And there you put your negative. This goes in here. There is a light here. Okay, and your piece of negative goes here, and the light would shine through this negative, and you would put a piece of paper here. Now this is a special photo paper. Okay, it's a special type of photo, light sensitive, yeah, light sensitive paper. Okay, it's not just any sensitive paper. Okay, oh my gosh, my spelling is so horrible. Okay, but basically it's a special type of paper that when the negative projects the image on this surface, a photo will develop. Okay, so this, I think you will know that you will bring it into different types of solutions. Yeah, you wash it in ammonia, then you bring it here and you bring it here, and finally the photo will be developed, and then you hang the photo up like that, right? You've seen it in movies and stuff. So this is how we used to do develop photos. Okay, and there are sometimes when we find like an area of a photo. For example, this is the photo of, say, a scenery. Yeah, and there's some trees, and say there's a house here, and say if the house was if the house seemed a bit too dark, okay, what we will do is we will use our hand and kind of move our hand over the area while the photo is developing. Okay, and that's called dodging. So when you have this term color dodge here, it means that we were trying to lighten it. Okay, so this whole family here is basically to lighten stuff. This whole family here is to darken stuff. Okay, so I think, yeah, that pretty much explains it. I could re-explain it in class. Probably it'd be a bit more clearer when I am able to even like kind of perform the whole thing in front of you by showing you how it actually works. But if, let's say, you have two different layers. Say I have, how does blending modes and transparency work? So I create a new layer. Let's say I have red color. Okay, and I create another layer with, say, orange. Okay, and this top layer, if I chose the transparency or blending mode to multiply, which is a darken in the family of darkening things, if I choose multiply, you notice that the orange will kind of mix with the red, but but it kind of like multiply. That means it's kind of darkened. Okay, if you choose color burn, it has a different effect. Now if you go to the next family, color dodge, for instance, you will find that it lightens. The orange kind of disappears because you must understand that the background is white, so the orange on the white will also be affected as well. Okay, so these are blending modes. Okay, and it gives all different types of cool effects or cool colorations, which will be helpful next time if you want to use them. Okay, so for example, if I go back to illustrate After Effects, okay, and if I move my star on top of this box here, for instance, and I change my blending mode here, you see the same thing occurs again. These are add, lighten, screen, dodge, darken, multiply. Now if I want this star to overlap on this square, but I want it to see through, I want the star to see through to the square, but I want to make it like lighter, so I can do this screen, see, it looks true, yeah. Or color dodge. Color dodge has a different effect, you see, it kind of takes this and mixes it up in a different way. If I use multiply, then obviously you see it becomes darker, but basically it allows you to see through. So these are called blending modes, alright. You will find this term, I will use it a lot more, especially when we do animation, drawing and composition, when we start painting things to create highlights, to create shadows. We will use that as well. Okay, alright, so you have this already. I think it should suffice. Play around with the After Effects. I think I will give you one more, just one last bit. Okay, what I'm going to do is introduce the graph editor to you. Now what's that about? Okay, I'm going to delete these two items. I'm going to create a box and keep it as simple as possible. Okay, now I have the box to start with. Okay, and I'm going to move this box, which is with position. I'm going to press P, keyframe it, and then at 3 seconds I'm going to move this object. Oops, the anchor point is outside, so I'm going to press A, whoops, Y, move the anchor point back into the object, press V. Now press P for position, create a keyframe, and then at 3 seconds I'm going to move this object across to here. Okay, now do you see that it's moving? Okay, yeah, I'm moving my playback head back and forth just to check. Okay, now it is moving at a regular pace. Okay, now for example, if I want it to just, now the animation is 3 seconds long, but my whole timeline is 10 seconds. So if I do not want it to play the whole thing when I RAM preview, what I can do is I take this yellow tab, yeah, the end of the work area, and I pull it all the way down here, so that when I press RAM preview, it will play once and then go back to the front again, so that I don't need to wait for it to go all the way to 10 seconds before it repeats itself. Okay, so now I'm just working in this area here. Now it's moving at a regular pace. How do I know that? Is because if I click on this object, look at these dots. If I zoom in, do you notice that they are all spaced the same apart? Okay, now if those of you who are in physics, you know that these dots which are regularly paced it means that it's moving at a normal, what you call, not normal speed, at a constant speed. Now in animation, if you have done principles of animation, of course you know what is slow in and slow out, right? Now how do we do that in After Effects? You have to click on this little graph here. Okay, it's a graph editor. You click on that. Now it's not done yet. What you need to do is you need to go to here on the timeline, the graph editor, and click this. Now you see this line here, this white line here. Now that's what it is. The speed is constant. It's moving currently at 433.33 pixels. You see, if I roll over to this point, it says that this square is moving at 433.33 pixels per second. Okay, now how do I make it kind of slow out and then slow in again? Is I click on one of these points and I play around with the bezier. These two yellow things will come out. Okay, so it starts now at 0. It will go all the way up, speed all the way up to 1185.7 pixels per second, and then it will slow down again until 0. So when I manipulated the graph, do you notice that the dots now have changed spacing? Okay, now you see that the dots are closer to each other at the end and further apart as they move to the center, because the graph tells this to happen. Okay, see, at this point the object is moving faster because it's moving, the speed is going up. So if the graph looks like this, it means it will go slow, fast, slow. Okay, so let's play it in RAM preview. See, slow, fast, slow, slow, fast, slow. Okay, now if let's say I were to invert the graph, I will pull it down like a U shape. I create a U graph, so it's kind of like fast, slow, fast. You see, when the dots are nearer to each other, it's slower. So when I press RAM preview, it slows down. Slow, fast, slow, fast. Okay, now how do I get out of this graph editor? Let's just change it back to this. It's just clicking on this, okay, and you can manipulate your keyframes. Yeah, if you want the sequence to, let's say, be faster, you just move the keyframes from 3 seconds to 2 seconds, and then it will be faster, right? See, stops at 2 seconds, wait 3. Okay, all right, so that's how you do slow in and slow out. And you can do the same with rotation as well. For example, if I press R, okay, say it's gonna start like that, and when it moves to 2 seconds, I want it to have done 1 round. Yeah, so it goes like that, right? I click on the graph editor again, click on this. Now I do not want to see the scale, which is now, if you look at the scale, hold down your shift key and press S, you see scale and rotation, right? Oh, sorry, position and rotation. I don't want scale. All right, the one in purple, which means this purple graph here, is for the position. The one in blue is for rotation. Okay, so I do not want position anymore. I just want to play around with rotation. I select these two, I click on this now, easy ease. All right, click on that, it automatically churns out the 2 graphs for you. You can play around with this as well. Okay, so that also in turn has animation. See, yeah. Okay, if you notice that there are numbers here, so when it goes from 0, it will suddenly shoot up to 35 degrees. Yeah, 36 degrees actually. Okay, so you can notice that there is that ease in, ease out, even with the rotation property of this object. Okay, now I hope you understand as much as you can from this tutorial. Obviously, don't just watch this once, which is why I want to give it to you now, because I do expect you to watch this again and again. Watch it, stop, follow, do a few steps, and then play this video again, because that's the way you actually learn. I hope that you guys will watch it before you come for the next class, and all the best. Okay, thanks very much.